Jim Rowan, how you going? How am I going? Not so well, actually. I hurt my eye at jiu-jitsu, and now I'm wearing a weird cover thing on it, and it's a bit distracting. It'll probably affect my reading. I can't imagine it won't. But it is the 1st of March. Yesterday was the second night of Castle Attack, so I've got to do a show. The show must go on, even if it goes on in pain. That's the other thing. Weather check. It is night. It is the night of the 1st of March, but it's a bloody hot night, let me tell you. Like, I just got to jiu-jitsu and I didn't have to warm up at all. I was already sweating just being there. Anyway, that's the real stuff. Though trust me, I did the job. Let's get to the stuff in Japan here. So, and I'm actually happy because I nearly did this last night, right after the matches last night. But then there was a ton of news that came out today, so I'm glad I waited. So, plenty to go through. Before I get to last night's show, however, I'll just quickly go through what was said after the first night of Castle Attack on the 27th, because when I did that show a couple days ago, the audio wasn't up yet. Or actually, no, it was yesterday, wasn't it? I uploaded that yesterday. The interviews, rather, weren't up yet for the first night, so I'll run through the matches again very quickly. So, first one was Okan, Cobb, and Ospreay versus Tanahashi, Kojima, and Tenzan, and the United Empire got the win over Tenzan with the kind of assisted Oz cutter. After the match, Kojima said he'll never bow down to the power of the Empire, as impressive as it is. And he doesn't need to keep hearing Khan shout about it. Tanahashi thinks he has looked second best against Khan in their build to the never openweight title match. And he was asked why he doesn't wear the belt around his waist. And he says his thoughts on the title have changed, but perhaps he should. Perhaps Tanahashi, he feels he should maybe wear the belt around his waist. And then Khan comes in, he says tomorrow he will take Tanahashi's belt and his assistant, referring of course to Tsuji. Cobb and Ospreay, they do a promo together and it's as terrible as usual. Next match was Yoshihashi Tangaloa, and that was a Tangaloa win by apeshit. Straight after that was Tamatonga and Goto won with a GTR. Not much in the way of... Well, I think... sorry, I need to keep the window open, so you'll have to put up with the motorbikes. Hopefully no planes, though, or helicopters. We'll see. Yeah, everyone kind of just had pretty basic things to say. Tama says tomorrow they enter his realm, of course referring to the tag team title match, and Goto says that they don't fight like champions, the Gorillas. And then we had the Texas strap match for the King of Pro Wrestling 2021 trophy, Chase Owens versus Toru Yano, and Yano won that one by removing the last pad. Owens thinks, this is backstage of course, Owens thinks Yano had a mean streak in him today. And Yano said that the strap hurt like hell, but he had to take care of his baby. Co-main, Jay White and Ishii. The Blade Runner finishing Ishii. Backstage, White rambles about gullible wrestling fans, and Ishii is behind him now, and ahead of him is the New Japan Cup, which he is yet to compete in, apparently. This will be his first New Japan Cup appearance, or as he starts calling it the New Japan Cup. What was that? Something bouncing around the walls. And then the main event, Evil and Okada. Okada winning with the Rainmaker. He said back... of course he had the promo in the ring. He says it felt good to get that win. He apologizes for the dirty Bullet Club tactics. His plan is to win the New Japan Cup and take the IWGP Heavyweight Championship back. And he thinks people are sick of the double title and that it's up to him to save the heavyweight division. And then backstage, Okada says that he's done with Evil. He's on track for the title, but the New Japan Cup is the right way to do it. And he isn't interested in the double title or whether it's unified or not. The strongest wrestlers should be fighting for the top prize, and that is the heavyweight title. That brings us to the next night, the 28th, yesterday. New Japan Castle Attack Night 2, also of course coming from Osaka-jo Hall. The first match on this card, Jeff Cobb and Will Ospreay took on Satoshi Kojima and Hiroyoshi Tenzan. And of course the trend leading into this one has been just all of the United Empire really teasing and mocking Tenzan with the chops, the Mongolian chops. They hold him back, and all the United Empire guys are doing the chops. Of course, Khan kind of took the move as a regular move, but the other guys just do it to piss him off, I imagine. But they go too far, because Tenzan just decides he's going to start throwing chops back, and he chops them all down, and then Cobb takes a cutter from Koji, a Koji cutter, and then there's a big lariat, and Kojima pins Cobb for the win. So I've since there's been a bit of time in between this happening and now me recording this, I've seen a lot of people quite upset that the stipulation wasn't adhered to, or that Tenzan should have been disqualified. Actually, I think the commentary team was saying that they expected Tenzan to be disqualified. And I'm not really sure I agree with that. Like, it's kind of... I mean, it's not really written into the rule book, is it? It was just kind of a silly stipulation in a mid-card match. I mean, not to say they should completely disregard it, but I don't think it's up to the officials, the referees, or even, like, it sounds silly for it to even be like the IWGP committee, for example, that would fine Tenzan for this. It kind of just seems like one of those things. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I guess in terms of stipulations, how can you really tell someone not to do a move if it's not an illegal move and everyone else is allowed to do the move? I guess it seems to me something that's more the honor system comes into play. Kind of like retirements. Like, you definitely shouldn't just be doing retirements here and there, but like, it's, I don't know. Getting fired would be different, but if you decide you're unretired, then I don't see why you can't come back. You just have to deal with the public opinion. You're someone that went against your word, you know? I don't know. It just didn't sound right to me that the referee should be disqualifying him for using a perfectly legitimate move. Anyway, he actually has a way around this as well. Well, I mean, we'll see what turns out from it. But, Kojima, backstage, he says that, he just talks about his lariat and how that keeps him going as a pro wrestler. And Tenzan comes in and he's like, yeah, that lariat, it's the best. It kept us, it won us the match. And then Tenzan goes on to say he was stressed without his Mongolian chop and he couldn't contain his frustration any longer. But he just makes up, and I think this as well was something that the commentary team tried on. He just calls it a different name. He's like, well, it's not the Mongolian chop, it's the true Mongolian chop. Which is, if he was really trying to skirt around not using the Mongolian chop, he should probably at least change the Mongolian part of the name. But, just call it like the Tenzan Choppy. The Tenzan Swingaroo. I don't know. Something. Well, but I don't know. I didn't care about this. I didn't care that he used the move. I thought, I was like, cool, he used it. Whatever, move on. Not a big deal. I think it's probably more important that, and again, this kind of like the honor system, Khan earned it. So people can't really say, oh, well, he stole it from Tenzan. Well, I guess maybe he kind of did. But then who did Tenzan steal it from, But in a way, he kind of earned it a bit from Tenzan by competing for it in a match. So whether Tenzan uses it or not, Okan's kind of earned it. And can, legitimately claim it to be one of his moves, and he's not a copycat. It's his move. Anyway, that's just the opener. But how cool is that? Just a bit of a surprise. And the surprise is Cobb and Ospreay losing, and I'm happy to see it. Next match, Jay White, Chase Owens, and Evil versus Kazuchika Okada, Toru Yano, and Tomohiro Ishii. Of course, this is kind of the a bit of a Chaos versus Bullet Club battle the night before. It didn't really result in a bunch of great matches, in my opinion. You know what? I felt I almost watched that Tomohiro Ishii and White match again because a lot of people really liked it, and I felt like it was just. And again, I held it to a high standard, but I just kind of felt like it wasn't the match I thought it would be, so I was a bit disappointed by it. I might watch it again though. Like maybe I was just in a foul mood. Maybe I just wasn't real impressed with the matches that came before it, and I was a bit. It makes a big difference, the mindset you have going into watching a match. So, anyway. So they had this tag match to kind of follow up on the night before. And you know what was actually what I took from this match? Yano really clowns on Evil. So, it wasn't a long match. Okada ends up submitting Owens with the money clip. But, I'm actually kind of interested to see how they treat Evil from this point. It seems a pretty popular opinion that his push failed. And in fairness to Evil, I don't know how much of that's his fault. Because he got the new music. His music sounds cool. His outfit looks good. Like, he's got a good look. He's a good wrestler. He can have good matches. But, like, just every match being him trying to cheat every way he can. And it doesn't help that the fans can't boo. I don't know. It's brutal to watch. Anyway. What Evil said after the match was that he wasn't convinced by yesterday's loss, and he tells Okada to keep his eyes open. For some reason, White has the Texas title belt, Owens' title. I don't know why I didn't pick up, or I didn't see him pick that up. Owens lost, so he was probably helped out, so maybe Jay just helped him out and then had hold of the title and just held on to it for a laugh. But he says, this is Jay White, says that he is the winner regardless of whether or not he holds a title or he is a winner, regardless of whether or not he holds a title. And Ishii is always a loser. He is done with Ishii. It was just a stepping stone. But what he's stepping toward, of course, is the question. Something flying at me from this side now. Okay. What's going on? This is becoming a theme, a part of the podcast, is just what noises will enter and how will I react. Okada walks in. He's banged up from last night, he admits, but the fact that he still won tonight, on this occasion, shows that he's on a roll, according to him, and he'll take that role into the New Japan Cup. So, that was the just couple of warm-up matches, I suppose. Then we had the IWGP Tag Team Championship, Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto versus the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tanga Loa. So, in this one, oh, there you go, skyline, up the street, more noise. Yoshi jumps Tama at the start, which is fair play given how much Tama's been talking crap about him and his manhood, what's between his legs, and using words like itty bitty. But Tanga Loa power bombs him dead, and then just like kind of jokingly does the arm lift thing, when someone's in a sleeper hold and the referee grabs the arm and does the 2 drops, and then on the 3rd drop the guy comes back alive. Yoshi wasn't coming back alive, he was dead, and the referee just kind of stands there going, alright, well, what are you doing, Tanga Loa? Just do another move to him. I'm not going to call the match off. It doesn't matter that he's unconscious and unresponsive. So the match continues, and Yoshi makes a short comeback, but I think it was a theme of this match that the Gorillas just work better as a team. And that Yoshi's just kind of a tough kid. He kicks out of a magic killer, but then the challengers do have a bit of a surge, and they hit the GYW. Tama kicks out of that, and then there's another tag move that they pull off on Tama, but he kicks out of that too. And then Loa runs in with the belt, and there's just kind of this commotion. Jado uses the distraction of everything's going on to smack Goto with the kendo stick, and Tama just kind of leaps in out of nowhere, excuse the cliche, hits the gun stun, and that's it. That seals the title defense for the champions. And they hang around a while, actually. They like kind of go up on the turnbuckles and celebrate to the silent crowd. And then backstage, Tama's... on the way out... I mean, I didn't catch it. I watched it back because I saw someone make a comment about it, but I think it was an AEW tag team, or maybe even 2, that Tama referred to on the way out. I think he said Top Guys, and I think someone said that sounds like, or the mechanics, the FTR. Apparently those guys call themselves that. I don't watch the show, I'm not sure, but I just heard that apparently they'd made reference to the Revival, FTR. So and then I mean in the promo backstage, he just says that they're the greatest team of all time and they'll take on any team from any company. So they're definitely teasing some kind of crossover there. And I tell you what, again, I don't need to tell anyone that's listened to me that I'm not the biggest AEW fan. I'm not a hater either, though, by the way. They're just not bringing to the table something that I'm going to spend a bunch of time on. Having said that, they have, really kind of focused on their tag division. I know they've got a bunch of teams, and that's definitely somewhere that New Japan lacks, a department New Japan lacks in. So I'm on board for that. More tag teams sounds like a good idea. And look, I mean, these guys are okay. Tama and Tangaloa. I don't necessarily get excited about their matches, but whatever. Anyway, couldn't say that about the next champion. Never Openweight Championship. This is the next match. Great Khan challenging Hiroshi Tanahashi. So, well, I mentioned it before in the promos from after the last event, or at least after Tanahashi's match. He comes out, Tanahashi, with the belt over his shoulder rather than around his waist. So he still isn't convinced that he wants to wear this thing around his waist. Now, I have a theory about this, but I'll get to it in a bit. I don't know if these are new pants, but Khan has some pretty fancy Aladdin pants on. I feel like maybe I didn't notice them earlier, but pretty flashy looking. Not bad, don't mind them. Not sure if I'd wear them. Maybe to bed. But an interesting... the match was okay. It was pretty good, I guess. Not bad. I think the most interesting part of it, though, was how involved Tsuji was. As, I'm a big Yoda Tsuji fan. So there's a moment when Khan gets out of the ring and he confronts Tsuji. And then Tanahashi comes from behind Tsuji, and not in like a rude or aggressive way, but just kind of like, shove wouldn't be the right word, just kind of moves him out of the way so that Tanahashi is squaring off with Okan instead. And it's subtle, but you can just notice that Tsuji's a bit perturbed at, it's almost like I guess he's like his mentor, but maybe it's sort of starting to feel like a bit of a boss that Tanahashi is to him, and he just looks a bit like, do I have to take this from this guy, And I think commentary did a decent job of this, but it is interesting that because Yoda's been working so hard to get noticed, to get that Naito match has been the easiest way to see that. He's been trying to get that Naito match. He was trying to all sorts of ways. He was coming up with ideas, and it was pretty clear that he was just being ignored by management, right? And he's antsy. He's talking about how Jay White had been a champion, Ospreay had been a champion, Okada had been a champion by the time they were all 27, and he's 27 and he's still a young lion. Like, he's itching to get something done. So if you're following all of this, it's really interesting to kind of see the gears turn in Tsuji's head when you can see, or you can understand that if he punches Tanahashi, that's definitely a strong enemy and a big problem for him, but he might just be that desperate to make an impact. And you gotta know that him doing that and him joining the Empire, they would put him in a position, they would elevate him. If he's in these tag matches with Cobb and Ospreay and Khan, he's way more likely to be on the winning team. That's elevation of a kind. And so I don't know. It was interesting watching it go down, and nothing happened at that moment. But then Khan grabs Tanahashi and he holds him back. And Tsuji really thinks about it. He balls up his fist, like he's really about to strike Tanahashi, but then he thinks better of it. And I think on that occasion he kind of balled up his fist, but then he just ended up not doing anything. And then later on during the match, I didn't write too much about the match, to be honest. I mean, it was good, but it was whatever. Khan's in a state of desperation somewhat, and he's crawling his way over to Tsuji. And he tells Tsuji, get me a chair. And Tsuji goes under the ring and he gets the chair. And he thinks about it for a moment, and then he slides it to Tanahashi instead. And of course Tanahashi's not going to use it. He just sets it up and sits down on it and kind of smiles at Khan like, oh yeah, you thought you had him. And then there's a couple of sling blades. That doesn't keep Khan down. Khan hits a big lariat. And then this was interesting. He grabs Tanahashi's face like he does with the Eliminator. But then he turned it into this kind of back rack thing. And it actually, I mean, it's a little bit silly, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of a cool move. And I was actually thinking, just because it's new, I was kind of thinking, I wonder if he's going to get him with this. Like, I wonder if they're really going to put this over. Because it definitely looked uncomfortable. But it didn't. I don't know I didn't write if Tanahashi got out of it or Khan just gave up on it. But Khan goes for the Eliminator. And this was really good. He gets Tanahashi up. And then Tanahashi just counters midair into this perfect crucifix. And just rolls over into the pin and keeps Khan down for 3. It was a really good finish. And then Tsuji helps him out. He helps him out of the arena, the champion. So Tanahashi retains, which I think is the right move. Especially, as I mentioned, I will continue to tease my theory. I'll get to it at the end. So after the match, Khan needs a chair. He's really out of breath. He's reminded that Tanahashi, this has reminded him that Tanahashi never really gets tired, but he is now worthy of a proper execution. But having said that, Khan can barely walk. That's one of the things with Khan, though. I feel like he maybe oversells a bit. He's meant to be kind of a tough guy brawler. I think he can kind of, it's a good thing to be able to sell, but I don't know. I feel like he overdoes it a little bit. And then Tanahashi strolls in. He's fine. He shows up his custom Zima cans. They had like a collaboration with Tanahashi, with Zima. So he puts out all his cans with his kind of, I think it's like just like a cartoon picture of him on it. Maybe doing the high fly flow, which we didn't see in this match. I don't think he even tried it. Could be wrong. Didn't mention it. And Tanahashi says he's still been thinking a lot about this title, and he's decided that he wants to change people's perception of it. And all this talk of unification, of course, of the Intercontinental and Heavyweight titles, it's pushed this Never title to the sidelines. He thinks he can change that, and lately he's been thinking of it as the Never Never title, so a double negative, as in anything's possible. And his goal is to raise this title to the same level as the IWGP title. Now, I'm going to put a pin in that, and I'm going to come back to it. Pause for effect. Next match. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, El Fantasmo versus El Desperado versus Bushi. Of course, this match coming together because of Hiromu's injury. Bushi being a part of it speaks to Hiromu's power, because Bushi beat Wato. That's the last guy he beat, as far as I can recall. And Wato's pretty good, but he hasn't he's... I don't want to get all real sports and UFC on you, but like, it's not like Wado's ranked. He's not way up there. Just because he's been impressive doesn't mean, how many wins has he got? You know what I mean? Look at the Best of Super Juniors. Anyway, actually, no, he did pretty well in the Best of Super Juniors. Perhaps I'm wrong. You know what? It might speak to how shallow the division is. But in any case, well, this is the match. It's a 3-way, which I know I said on the last podcast that I don't particularly like, but at least it doesn't happen often, and it's a little something different. So, well, one thing I was really impressed by in this match was that ELP really took it seriously. He wasn't doing the back rakes. He wasn't doing, all kinds of goofy stuff. He did a huge dive. Both other guys, Phantasmo and Bushi, are outside the ring, and he jumps up to the top turnbuckle and dives outside. But it's a really high dive. It's kind of like a Taka dive, if you remember those. And of course, the crowd aren't meant to make noise with their mouth, but they gasp. There's an audible gasp in the building because it's such a big move. So he hits both guys with that, and then he takes Despy up the ramp, and he tears at his mask, and then he gives him a gotch-style pile driver on the ramp, and then he tears the rest of the mask off. He tears it off completely, and he puts it on. He walks back to the ring with a Despy mask on, albeit a very torn one, but yeah, and then he just kind of kicks it into the air disrespectfully, but that's not what I'm talking about. When the stupid back rakes and that kind of stuff, that's different. This is like still in a fight, disrespect. Plus, it's good tactics because Despy was actually out of the match for a long time because he had to cover his face, and he ended up getting someone ran off and got him he's got a spare mask. So they went and got him his mask, and he put that back on. But for a while, it was just like a one-on-one match back in the ring with ELP and Bushi. So not only was it kind of, a wow moment and dirty... Well, it was dirty tactics, but it was effective. It wasn't just like a back rake and a nipple twist. That's stupid stuff. Yeah, anyway, but the ELP and Bushi fight in the ring for a while. And yeah, it's not bad. And then Despy gets his mask back and he comes back down. ELP hits a Styles Clash on Despy, but Bushi breaks it up with his own pin attempt. Despy has a numero dos on ELP, but it's reversed into a roll-up. A Pinche Loco is countered, but reversed back into an Olympic slam. ELP stomps on Despy's toe, and then there's a kick to the midsection, and then a kick to the head, all of which, of course, you must remember, with this loaded boot, so it all does like double damage. If not more, actually. Probably more, if this was a fighting game. So he stomps on his toe, kicks him in the gut, kicks him in the head, hits CR2, which is ELP's finish, for those that don't know, and then he does his Undertaker-style pin, but Bushi runs in, and he wouldn't have been able to quite make it to break up the pinfall, so he just grabs the referee's arm, and that's what stops the count. And then Bushi goes for an MX. ELP catches him with a kick, but Bushi rolls out of the ring to avoid being pinned. Then ELP gets punched in the mouth by Despy. Actually, that's something else that ELP didn't do, that like straight punch to the nuts that he does. Just another kind of, I don't know, goofy thing. Not that that's not, I guess that's, you could say, a strong tactic, but I don't know, it's a bit over the top. Anyway, so Despy punches him in the mouth as he does. Pinche Loco is reversed once by ELP with a pin, but then Despy bridges out of the pin. That was pretty cool. And then he hits the Pinche Loco. And then he rolls through into another one. Hits two Pinche Locos in a row. Bushi's still on the outside of the ring because he got hit by the sudden death kick. And Despy does the Undertaker pin, the, coffin pin. I don't know, whatever. You should, surely, if you're listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. Undertaker pin on ELP, and that's it. He wins. Desperado is the new junior heavyweight champion, and that's his first win of the singles title. A veteran of the junior heavyweight tag team championship scene, but his first singles title in the junior division. And he's got both his tag titles with him too, so he puts those over his shoulders, and then he raises the single title above his head. He's covered in junior, well, it's not gold, but you know what I mean. And then we got the promos. So Bushi said he was fighting for, well, he said that he was fighting for Hiromu previously, but the truth is that he wanted this for himself, and he says, you know what, that's the only reason he should be here, but he couldn't get it done. Phantasmo crawls in with an ice pack on his face, and he's clearly very disappointed, which is, once again, a nice change from his usual silliness and his rambling and his over-talking, and, you know, it sells the stakes of the match. It sells that even ELP cared about this. And he's actually speechless, but he does it really well. He kind of collects himself a bit, and he looks like he's about to say something, and then kind of can't really find the words and just kind of shakes his head, and he eventually just leaves. And his silence says a lot, considering, just as I said, considering how much of a loudmouth he usually is. I thought this was great. Well, great might be strong. It was a good promo. It was good. It was good character promo. It was good. Again, I think I'm repeating myself, but just in that it sold that this mattered. I thought it was cool. So yeah, he doesn't say anything, and he just leaves. And then Despy walks in to a hero's welcome of a chair to sit on and a table to sit at and a Zima to sip on. Although he says that one of the first things he says is, well, my mouth's covered, so I can't have a drink, by his mask, of course. But he says the title's history is no longer paused. He has now restarted it. This is Desperado. He isn't convinced that the history was restarted properly, though. He kind of says, you know, they probably should have had a tournament. That would have made more sense. And and then he still doesn't know why Bushi was involved at all. But that's not. He always teases Bushi. For those that don't know, he's got a thing. He's got a thing against Bushi. But then he kind of, I don't know. He goes to and fro a little bit. He says he was glad to face both, and that he's kind of happy with kind of happy with how things turned out. But he admits that he would have been pinned if it wasn't for Bushi's intervention when Bushi grabbed the referee's arm. And he remembers first challenging for the title in Osaka. He doesn't remember when, but it was years ago. He thanks Kanemaru for his support and thinks that there's still business left with ELP. You know, especially, perhaps even specifically because he had him beat. And if it was a one-on, well, you know, if it was a one-on-one match, it'd be completely different. But he had him beat, so you know. Despy seems like a very proud guy, but he also seems like he's he definitely doesn't have that over-the-top confidence Phantasmo does. He's a little bit self-deprecating. He's kind of realistic, but also like to the point of self-deprecating, but then also like happy to say that other people suck. He's a layered guy. He's an interesting fellow. and a good choice for champion, considering how close he came to. I mean, they had that fantastic match. What was the Best of Super Juniors final, wasn't it? Him and Hiromu. Yeah, so cool. I'm happy to see Despy with the title. But that brings us to the main event of the night. IWGP Intercontinental Championship on the line only. It was Tetsuya Naito challenging Kota Ibushi. The first note here is that Chris Charlton suggests that Ibushi may want to create the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So I made a note of that because I was like, I don't think I'd been able to picture what combining the IC title and the heavyweight title would be up until that point. And then I was like, of course. They've never internally... I mean, the rest of us do, of course. We all consider it a world title. It's... wrestling fans do. But internally, and this is kind of a Japanese thing, but they've never really considered it a world title. So I was like, that's a very interesting point, Chris Charlton. The Intercontinental belt, by the way, is around Ibushi's waist, though he does bring the heavyweight title with him as well. But of course, usually that's the title belt that he has around his waist. So he wears the IC title to the ring. And another factor in this match, of course, is the fitness of Naito's knee. Only just returned from injury. Didn't have a lot of time to rehab whatever the damage done to it was. But I suppose as kind of a offense is the best defense strategy, Naito targets and attacks the left knee of Ibushi. And this is after a very mat-based start to the contest, but in a Naito way. Like, it's not just some technical exhibition. It's still that kind of rough and nasty Naito style match. And there's a fair few pin attempts early by Naito, just kind of trying to really wear Ibushi down. And then it actually might have just been one move from Ibushi, though, that made up for all of that. He did his German suplex from the apron over the ropes into the ring and just drove Naito down on his head. That was a tough one. That was a real Ibushi Naito spot. And it wasn't too far into the match. But Ibushi kind of really goes hard on the comeback there. He hits a bomber-yay, he hits a last ride powerbomb, and that gets him a 2 count. And then he tries the Kamagoye, but it's countered into a ruthless Valentia. Like, again, classic Naito Ibushi, just smashing him on his head. And then the Destino was attempted by Naito, but that stopped. So Naito instead does his elbow strikes, the with the wrist control and continuous elbow strikes, which he'd been employing throughout the match. It's something I think is really good with Naito, because he makes him look real rough and hard, but you can tell that like there's a way to work that it's, he's not really getting hurt. Ibushi's not really taking much damage from him, but they look good. The counter to that, though, maybe harder to work this one. Just a crunching lariat from Ibushi. Just spins Naito around. And he does go for the Kamagoye again, but Naito uses that elbow once again to separate them. He hits a kick to create some distance and then runs in, hits the Destino, and once again just freaking spikes Ibushi on his head with this Destino. But Ibushi kicks out at 2, and then Naito, of course, tries for the proper version, the wind-up Destino is what I call it, but you know what I mean, the proper Destino, Ibushi catches him. They kind of tussle and get separated. Ibushi hits a flying knee, and then he sets up the reverse Kamigoye, which of course is what he did to Sonata in his last title defense, well, his double title defense. And he lands that flush. Then he goes to the other side. He tries again from the front, but that's reversed into a pin. But Ibushi rolls that straight through into another Kamigoye, this time, of course, from the front. But he does lose control of Naito's left hand, or left wrist, in the setup. So that small detail may have been the difference, because Naito's able to kick out of the subsequent pin. Not to be deterred, however, Ibushi picks Naito up with both wrists and lands a final Kamigoye, then just collapses on top of Naito, who this time, of course, is finally kept down, and they both stay down for quite a while. But this was a really good match. I mean, I don't know if it'll make it into the top 10 by the time the end of the year comes around. I'm going to do my best to keep track of the best matches. And this is definitely going on that list. I thought it was very good. But, I mean, I don't think it's even in the top 5 so far. Just off the top of my head, there's a few matches from Wrestle Kingdom and then that Shingo Tanahashi match. So, really good, but not quite at that level. Definitely worth having a watch of, though. Ibushi doesn't have a lot of time to celebrate, though, because Despy comes on down to congratulate the champion. He says it is bold of him to be out there, but, considering the match that just went on. But Despy's like, well, I've actually just finally become a champion as well. And he asks the audience, he looks around, he's like, does anyone here remember when I first challenged for it? Because it was right here in Osaka, and it was against Kota Ibushi. So, of course, he, with regards to the traditional anniversary match between the divisional champions, Desperado says, well, how about this time I challenge you, if we're going to have a match, how about I challenge you for those title belts? And Ibushi, of course, he accepts the challenge. He's going to fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. Despy says he'll show Ibushi that he's not the same man he was all those years ago. Ibushi actually remembers how many years ago. He says it was 8 years ago, and he remembers it because Despy sucked back then. So, not afraid to put the titles on the line. But and then backstage, and this is what I was talking about, Despy agrees that he sucked back then, and he doesn't even mind Ibushi saying so. He's like, it's true. And he was surprised that Ibushi remembered when it was, although I've also seen somewhere else that it was 7 years, so Ibushi might have been slightly off. But anyway, Despy doesn't remember. He doesn't remember all of his challenges, and frankly, he doesn't want to go back and watch them because he knows he wasn't good, and all he knows is that, well, he actually says he wasn't good and he didn't know how to get better. But he has now. He's a new man. And then Naito stumbles in. He says he knows that he called his shot quickly after the Tokyo Dome, and admits that if he was a fan that he may have considered it too early as well, but he just couldn't keep quiet when this unification idea was raised. Although he kind of thinks it's funny that he says it was like typical of him to fail. He wanted to keep things as they were. But this is the funny pro wrestling story of Naito. So he sees the lighter side of it, I guess. But that is, I don't think they've actually put it in those words before. And that Naito just wants to keep things the way they are. It's in line with Naito disagreeing with Omega, that he wanted he didn't want the expansion to the United States. He's like, no, we should just grow things here in Japan. So that's kind of been Naito's thing for a while. He's the old, I liked it back in my day kind of guy. And then Ibushi represents the future. He comes in, he's greeted with Zimas and questions. He said his will was stronger than Naito's. He repeats his unification vision. I've said it enough times by now. He heard Okada's comments on it. That just basically Okada doesn't care about the IC title at all. He understands that, but he's got his own views. He sees Desperado as a worthwhile challenger that has changed a lot, describing as a great wrestler. And Ibushi says that he would like the junior title on the line as well, but he understands that it wouldn't be on the line, so he will show everyone the difference between heavyweight and junior heavyweight wrestling. And that was that. So, today, the next day after this event, there was a press conference to be held, but news broke early that the chairman, Naoki Shugabayashi, this was broken by Tokyo Sports, Shugabayashi confirmed that the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the IWGP Intercontinental Championship will in fact be unified to create the first IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And it is... Look, it's a translated article, so I'll say it's very strongly suggested that there'll be a new title belt, but I'm pretty sure that there is. I mean, there would kind of have to be, unless, I guess I wouldn't really consider it a new title belt if they just kind of found the space to write World somewhere on the current heavyweight championship. But they did confirm that Ibushi would be the... well, actually, this is what they said at first. There was a couple of things that... and again, they could be lost in translation, or they could have amended it. At first, they said that Ibushi would be recognized as the first champion. Well, actually... hold on. Let me just finish the sentence here. The first, of course, World Heavyweight Champion. And then they said that the anniversary match against Desperado would be a non-title match. But then this was another thing that they later changed or corrected, because in a Twitter post from the NJPW Global account, they said that it would in fact be for the... well, that one would be for the double titles. Which, I don't know how much sense that makes, to be honest. I mean, it just kind of further confirms that Desperado's not winning. But in any case, this is the first time the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship will be on the line, will be against the winner of the New Japan Cup, and it's the 4th of April at Sakura Genesis. What I can't confirm is if Ibushi will walk in the champion. I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do. Ibushi's going to be the champion, and he's going to defend the title at that event, rather than, this is a new title and it's vacant. I suppose, I mean, they're unifying the titles. I guess Ibushi has to go in as the defending champion. Maybe what I'm wondering more is if he walks in with both belts and the winner of that match actually walks out with the new title belt. I get the feeling they're probably going to give it to Ibushi and he's going to win anyway. I mean, the way that the article was written, and just everything around this, I'm pretty sure Ibushi's going to retain anyway. They're kind of making him the guy that they're, he's the beacon of change, It wouldn't really make sense to build all this up it's Ibushi's vision to unify the titles, and then he doesn't even, get to reap the rewards of his hard work and his vision coming to fruition. So, that's that. But so he'll face whoever is the winner of the New Japan Cup, which, by the way, is Stacksville. But this is something that I posted on Reddit, by the way. Jimsan11, if you want to follow me. It got a lot of comments, which, of course it did. It's big news. But there's a lot of people. It's very controversial, I would say. A lot of people against it. I think one of the things, actually I didn't mention this, one of the things was, and I think this is what most people are upset about, is that they said something about there being a new lineage for the title. And I understand that being something people would be upset about. I think it has to have a new lineage, though. It's a new championship. It's a new championship. It's a new prize. I don't think that means they can't kind of... I would be surprised if they ignore the heavyweight championship. Just from this point, it never existed. And this is a completely new title. I kind of, maybe it's hopeful thinking, but I think they would just keep it going, but they just, draw a line in the sand of, well, this is when it became a different title, but you just move it along. How many times has that happened in history? You have, let's try WWE since they have so many bloody titles. You got the, so there was the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. That's kind of one of the big ones. You had the WCW Heavyweight Championship. And you had the WWE Heavyweight Championship. Well, they didn't call it. They just called it the World Champ, the WWF World Championship, and the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And they got unified to create the WWE Undisputed Championship. And that just maintained the lineage of the WWE Championship. And eventually that just became the WWE Championship, and they restarted the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that's what they do. I think the heavyweight championship lineage continues. The IC championship lineage is just kind of frozen in time. It had its place. I'm not sure how much I really want to go into what I think of the IC title. I don't know how useful it is. I'm not really a fan of everyone getting a title. And, you can definitely argue that they had top guys with that title, and that definitely gives it some prestige. And trust me, I'm a big Nakamura fan. But, Nakamura kind of held that title as, something for him to do because he wasn't really in the world title picture anymore. But he was still a top and popular guy. And then they kind of just replayed that storyline for Naito because they needed Okada to be the top guy and break all those records, but Naito was really popular. So they had him with this kind of silver medal belt. And it just doesn't make sense to me why anyone would challenge for that. Because pretty much everyone that is in the IC title picture is pretty close to the heavyweight title picture. And I guess I agree with Okada. And Tanahashi. Okada and Tanahashi have the same opinion basically. Just that well, if you're in this business, you should be going for the top prize. So I don't really like the idea of mid-card title, but I get it. And I don't think this was even operating as that. It was just the title on the guy that couldn't quite be the guy. And I don't think that's necessary to have a championship for. It's certainly not the top of a division. I know I've talked about this before. Championships should be the top of a division. The openweight title between 2014 and 2018, when it was just kind of a bunch of guys that weren't really in the world title picture, but they had something else to prove. They were just the toughest sons of guns, and they went out there and they hit each other hard. And, guys like Shibata, Shibata was somewhere around the title picture, but Shibata, Nagata, Ishii, Makabe, Honma, Goto, these guys would have these physical battles, and they kind of created their own division of just, if you're the champion of what we do, you gotta be able to take some heavy licks. And that's not to say that the heavyweight champion doesn't have to, but that's just a more dynamic division, I guess, where you have to take on all comers. Whereas that at that time, that never openweight division was quite a specific style. So, or Suzuki, of course, is one of the other ones. But it makes more sense to me to have a title that means something to people that aren't in the heavyweight title race, and they can raise their stock by being champion of this division, and then when they think they're ready, they can move on to the heavyweight championship, or now the world championship picture or scene. I'm assuming the United States title stays, for the most part, in the United States. They're trying to build that. They need a championship on that show now if they're building up strong. And and this brings me to what I was teasing earlier. Tanahashi's talking about he needs to raise the Never title. He wants to change how people see the Never title. This is exactly what I'm talking about. But what I was teasing was, I wonder if he literally wants to change how people see the title by changing the title. Because that's due for an update. And it really doesn't look like, I don't know. It's not a great looking title, to be honest. So, he could be the guy. I think they generally tend to change all the titles around the same time, of course. So 2008 was when the current heavyweight title was that we got that, and they actually, I've got this written down somewhere, but I will do something about the titles, because I've gone back. I know when they changed all the different titles, and being the belt nerd I am, I know all this crap. So, I don't know it off the top of my head, in fairness, but I've written it all down. I've researched it. So that'll be an article coming up soon. But, of course, they had to change the junior heavyweight title at that time because they made it look pretty similar to the heavyweight title. And, hey, they might update that too. I'm nervous because, I love that bloody title. It's beautiful, but it's exciting. It's a new belt. Let's see what it looks like, They've had some pretty titles in the past. Although, the Never title and whatnot, they've had some stinkers too, but we'll see. I just think it's exciting maybe that we get more titles updated. Tanahashi, maybe he wants to wear that new title around his waist. Like maybe when they upgrade it, make it look like a bit of a better prize. Now Tanahashi feels like he wants to wear that around his waist, And that, in a funny little way, puts it over as well. Tanahashi's wearing it around his waist. We're used to seeing him with the heavyweight title around his waist. Of course, he's not in that picture anymore. So, and if he's a perfect person to put someone over, whoever that's going to be. So, on that level. But I just think that makes more sense than having that A2 title, is what I was calling it. You're not A1, you're A2. It doesn't make sense. You should be, if you're that high, you should be just challenging for the heavyweight title. You should be challenging for the top prize. So that's what I think about the IC title. And I mean, it's only 10 years old. Whatever. It had two significant stories. Nakamura because he wasn't the top guy. Naito because he wasn't the top guy. And don't get me wrong, they were cool. It was cool. All of that history is cool, especially for Naito, the way it worked out with him. But that's fine. It ran its course. I don't know. But the way everyone reacted to that Reddit thread, I think I might be in the minority with that. Having said so, people hate change. It's just human nature. So in 3 months we might all be laughing about this. What were we worried about? What a great time we're having now. And I'll tell you another thing. I like that they're trying to start something new. Because how many times have I said on this freaking podcast, they need to shake things up. They need to do something different. So we'll see. Will we have a surprise winner of the New Japan Cup? Let's talk about that. What are we up to? Oh, that's all right. Just over an hour. Let's get into it. Oh, well, they actually had the press conference, by the way, but at the time of this recording, they didn't translate it. I mean, the main reason I watched it was just in case they gave you a sneak peek of that title. I was pretty sure they wouldn't, and they didn't. But they just had... Basically, the Sugabayashi repeated what he said in that article, and then he announced the New Japan Cup brackets. So I'll run over those quickly. Actually, he would have announced the matches for the anniversary show as well. Let's do that real quick because that'll come first. I didn't write that down though, just because I found the New Japan Cup brackets in a real neat little graphic, so I took those down before I started talking here. But oh no, they don't have the lineup on the schedule for the anniversary event. So as far as I'm aware, in Budokan they've got that main event with the double title on the line for the last time, Ibushi versus Despi. So that's on Thursday. That's cool. Excited for that. And then the New Japan Cup starts the next night, Friday night. So Evil and Tanahashi get first round buys. I'm not sure why Tanahashi gets a buy. Maybe just because he's Tanahashi. Obviously, Evil won the tournament last year, so that makes sense. But they're at opposite ends of the brackets. So Evil will face the winner of the first match, Kojima versus Cobb. Should I do... Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about him as we go. So I would say, as much as I like Kojima, he just got that big upset win. Cobb's got to be the favourite going into that one. Then we have Naito versus Okan. Now, if they want to start... Here's the thing. I would say if they're going to start pushing someone that they wouldn't usually quite push, it's more likely they just choose one guy. And the rest of them are the results you'd think. So Naito's got to go in, of course, the favourite in that one. But maybe Okan's a guy they like. Who knows? The next one's Yano versus Fale. Fale's back. And that's kind of a pick'em. I guess I would suggest Yano's the favourite in that one. Although now I'm trying to remember the history between Yano and Fale, because I think Yano would get Fale. Like Fale would beat a bunch of guys, and this is back when they treated Fale seriously. I think Yano would be a spoiler for Fale more often than not. I don't know. I remember him always being scared of him. Anyway, not really a consequential match to be spending too much time on. Whoever wins that isn't winning the next one, I'm sure. Goto versus Taichi. Now in that one I would say Taichi's the favourite going in. I would hope so. I like Goto, but Taichi's one of these guys, he's right there. You know, I mean, he's not a young guy, but he's right there. He's capable of doing more than what he's currently doing. Great tag team. Oh, actually, having said that, I hate to skip around too much, but just talking about the Intercontinental title. People say, oh, you know, there's no like stepping stone, what have you. If you're not good enough to be challenging for the heavyweight title, get a partner. Let's get some teams in the tag division. Bloody hell. You know? All those trios titles, I know that's a joke, but it doesn't have to be a joke. It's not inherently a joke to be in a trios team. Or what are they? The 6-man titles, I call it. I call it trios title. Trios. Like, pick a couple mates. Go make that a bigger deal. It's not like they couldn't. It's not like it's inherently a joke. If they get some guys that matter in these divisions, it'd be good. It'd be exciting. Like, okay, Evil, perfect example. That's a tag team wrestler. Okay? Who should he be with? Let's roll through these. I mean, I guess you should say you should be with a Bullet Club guy. Kenta, I guess? I mean, Kenta's going to be a United States wrestler, I think. But I don't know, like if Kenta's not quite in that picture either, and they're not going to figure him in for 3 months, 6 months, like tag run. It doesn't matter. They don't have to win. Just be like challenges that you're like, oh wow, you know, those are proper guys. They might win. Of course, Bullet Club's a weird example because the current champion's a Bullet Club, but I digress. So, Goto versus Taichi. I feel like Taichi is favorite going into that one. Okada versus Takagi. That is the pick of the bunch on this end of the bracket. Maybe on both ends. That's another one where you're like, you know, Shingo for sure is one of those guys that's right there with Taichi, with, I think I'd personally put him above Okan. I actually know it wouldn't be fair at all to Taichi and Takagi to put Okan on that level. But yeah, those two are right there. Like, that's someone you could make with a New Japan Cup. Then you got Honma and Suzuki. Suzuki's got to be the favorite going into that one. Juice versus Kenta. That is a match that I'm sure will figure into the Strong program, because those are two guys that I expect to be kind of big deals on the Strong program. But that closes out the first side of the bracket. And I guess I think I would say Kenta's the favorite going into that one, but that could go either way. You know what? If you look into the history of Juice and Kenta recently, off the top of my head, I think, well, I guess Juice would have... No, wait. Wasn't Juice meant to challenge Kenta for the briefcase and he got injured? So they never ended up having that match, and then Kenta had a last-minute opponent who he defended against? I don't know who would have won that. I think that was a while ago now. Anyway, so that could be a close one. Other side of the bracket, Tenzan versus Ospreay. So Ospreay's got to get his... I mean, it wasn't a direct loss. Tenzan didn't actually win the match himself, and Ospreay didn't lose the match himself, but, you know, Ospreay's got to get the win back there for sure. Gabriel Kidd's in the tournament, and he faces his compatriot, the Zack Sabre Jr. So, of course, Zack's the favourite there. Nagata versus Tsuji. This would be a cool one to see Tsuji get a win. I don't expect him to. Nagata's definitely the favourite going in, but you never know. I'm pretty sure Nagata wins. But, I mean, look, Tsuji's ready for something, but I don't know if the New Japan Cup's really... Like I said before, they're more likely to just kind of push a guy and make that the standout rather than a few different kind of guys get some wins. Because then it's better that the top guys beat the guys that aren't quite there, so that you have the guy that you thought wasn't quite there that actually is quite there beat top guys on his way up, rather than beat guys that you didn't expect to get through to the next round. So, yeah, expect a Nagata win there. Then we have Ishii versus Sanada. Sanada's definitely higher ranked. I'd imagine he's the favourite. Finlay versus Owens. I think Finlay's higher rated than Owens. That's, with respect to both of them, they're both good at what they do, but that's a real job squad match. And then Yoshi versus Yujiro. I think Yoshi is a rung above Yujiro. He's the favourite there. Hanare's back. Oh, poor old Honare. Last year everyone was thinking he was going to get, a bit of shine in the New Japan Cup, and then everything fell apart. But he's back. He's going to be facing Jay White in the first round, so good luck, son. I have to imagine Jay White's moving through in that one. And as I said before, whoever wins, Tanahashi's the one with at the other end of the bracket, so the winner of Henare versus White will face Tanahashi. Although, there's history with White and Tanahashi, of course, but then you've got Henare and Tanahashi that have been teaming together a lot lately. That's the good thing about New Japan, is that they keep these histories intact, and that's why you have a match like Ibushi versus Desperado that everyone knows was not at all set up, but Despy comes in and he's like, I'm in the city that I challenged you in all those years ago. That was the first time that I challenged for this title. Well, now this is the first time that I've won the title, and I want to take your titles. Like, there's just a story there already, because you keep that stuff going. It just makes sense. I guess a bit of a overview of this. You got Naito, Taichi, Okada, Shingo, and Kenta that I would say are somewhat realistic chances. Like, I could foresee it possibly happening with those guys in the first block. Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., Sonata, Jay White, and Tanahashi being the guys I would see possibly, I would believe could get to the final. In the other bracket, if I was just, without breaking down every single match and who would have to beat who, it's hard to go past Okada. Naito doesn't really make sense. I guess really what you want to be looking at is who faces Ibushi for the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't think Ospreay has enough steam. Zack Sabre Jr. doesn't have enough steam. Sonata definitely not going there again. Jay White's possible, but they just came off that at Wrestle Kingdom. Tanahashi's doing a different program. That doesn't make sense. Naito doesn't make sense. Taichi's a stretch. Shingo's a bit of a stretch. So is Kenta. It's Okada, right? It's got to be Okada. They build Okada back up. He wins the New Japan Cup. And then, it makes sense that Okada wants to be the first, or, to be the World Heavyweight Champion. And represent that title the same way he represented the last title. But I think Ibushi beats him, because they're going with him. It's kind of a new era, and Okada's got to kind of come back around and figure out, build his way back up. And they've taken all this time to build Okada back up just for that title shot. The fact that he doesn't win it the first time, Okada's Teflon at this point, he'd be fine, work his way back up. Actually, just laying it out like that, that's, I'd put money on that. I'm terrible at predictions, though. I am awful at predictions, but that makes so much sense. And there's just those other guys that are actually, I would say, in a vacuum, likely to win something like a New Japan Cup. Like, it just doesn't make sense. That matchup doesn't make sense with Ibushi at Sakura Genesis, for a couple of them, just because the matches have just happened. For a couple of them, just because they don't have that momentum yet. But Okada's got the momentum, and that's a big deal. They've got to make that match a big deal. It's for the first IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. I kind of can't see it being anyone else. I hate to be a spoiler, but does that not make sense? Anyway, that's enough. This has gone on longer than I thought it would. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. I will actually quickly preview. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing, but there's going to be some work coming out of me in the couple weeks to come, because I've actually got some time off work. Not to go past the fact that I've just done 2 podcasts in a row, but there's some things I'll catch up on. Definitely get some more of that historical stuff done coming up soon. But of course, this New Japan Cup will keep me busy. So, and of course, I still haven't caught up on Strong. I mean, I've watched it, but I haven't relayed it on this platform. I actually considered doing it just a kind of the Strong stuff and this stuff, because I thought maybe I wouldn't have enough, just going through one card, enough content to really make it a worthwhile podcast. Or wasn't that incorrect because of all this news that came out the next day? But I'm excited. Let's see where it goes. Until then, have a good one.